And as always, welcome to Ascension with A Course in Miracles. This is an opportunity for us to come together where a message is being transmitted through me, specifically utilizing the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And I'm Laina Orlando, and I cannot tell you how thrilling it is for me to have these gatherings for two reasons, really. From my perspective, things get said through me that I just don't sit around and it come to me by myself. So I like to hear what is being transmitted, because it is so, it just brings the Course in Miracles more alive for me. The second one is that when two or more are gathered, we are activating a consciousness of love, a consciousness of curiosity. We are activating within ourselves in this third dimension. So while we are in the 3D world of density, when two or more gather, we basically, what we're doing is we're taking the dimmer switch and turning up our light. And as we turn up our light, we emit a frequency. That frequency not only serves us, because giving is and receiving are one, we receive it first because we are the receiver of the transmission. And from there, it transmits out. So as we come together, the more people that participate at the same time in something as beautiful as this, you can't help. Your guard is down. You are totally at peace. You might even be excited about the message. You might even be, clearly you're curious. You have made a commitment to the higher frequencies because you've made a decision in the 3D world to carve a little bit of time out to dedicate to sitting for, typically these things go an hour, in a state of curiosity, open-mindedness, in a state of trusting that whatever's coming through me, you trust that it's going to be of benefit to you, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So amazing things are happening when we come together. And I cannot emphasize enough that around the world, there are groups around the world, whether it's through A Course in Miracles or the Gita or the Bible, there are gatherings that are taking place. It could even be around a campfire in song. And it doesn't have to be specifically a book. It is people who come together to share an experience of love, of connection. The groups that get together and they're complaining and whining and blaming, they are condensing their light. They are contracting. And that contraction creates an activation of either desperation or discomfort or suppression, or it begins to get activated into an energy of revenge, which is all good. It's actually all necessary, because for us to break through the density on this planet, we've got quite a few people who are going to be taking revenge, and it is necessary because revenge is a higher frequency than hate, and anger and apathy, but it is not as high as kindness and compassion and forgiveness. But there's a whole spectrum. There's an entire spectrum that moves us through various frequencies. And when we understand where we're at with our frequency, then we understand basically kind of like the piece of the puzzle that we are. Where do we fit in the whole picture? So our gathering is a gathering of high frequency, holding light. We don't need to change what we don't like. We just sit in the what is amazing. And to that end, I want to invite anybody that listens to these messages. I started a group. Well, it's actually a co-creation. Three of us started that group called Happy Dream Creators. And I started it on Facebook. And I keep saying I because the other two are students of mine, and they are advanced students of my work. And when we get together, we know that we are all transmitting, channeling, whatever you want to call it. And so we came together because the two of them understand that in the Course in Miracles, we are told that the best that we can do while we are in physical form is to create a happy dream. While we think that this world is solid, that our house is solid, that our bodies are real, while we are still operating as if that is true, and I'll tell you, I do. I take care of this body vessel. I am looking for a home I like to find another home or a place. That I'm in a temporary place right now. So I think that I'm in a temporary place. So clearly I think it's real. And I'm looking to move to a permanent place. So clearly I think it's real. So while I've got a foot in the 3D world, because I also have a foot in the 5D world, I'm straddling the two. That means that I'm in the fourth dimension because I'm accepting both sides. Course in Miracles says that while we accept the third dimension as being real, the best that we can do is create a happy dream. And in a happy dream, everybody's happy. So we're pretending to be separate. We're pretending to have houses and bodies and cars and dogs and, you know, blades of grass. And we pretend that we go to the beach and we're going to go on vacation and we're going to go to the theater and we're going to go to work. While we're playing that game inside of this 3D world, 3D construct, we can at least be happy. We can at least operate by the rules of God, the laws of God. So we came together as a group, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. Stacy, if you remember, you can let me know, but I think it was like 6 months ago. And we meet a couple times a month, every other week was the plan. And right now it's all flexible. And we would just come together in a meditation. And sometimes I would lead it, sometimes Tom would lead it. And it was just a meditation to open ourselves up to receive guidance on how to create a happy dream. So I don't sit there and teach. I'm not there to teach. Tonight, we're going to come back together because we haven't been together in a little while to just reconnect and bring in a consciousness, a commitment in 2024 to continue to allow the creative source to transmit through each and every one of us what creating a happy dream looks like. How do we achieve that? So you're all invited. If somebody that hasn't been in that group wants to be part of the group, just send me a text and or put a message in. If you're watching this on YouTube, and I'll add you to the group. It's a closed group because it's social media. We just didn't want it to be open to people who I forget what they call that. But people who just enter groups and it's not kind, and we just don't want that. So we decided to close it. But let's get on to today's transmission because I'm super excited. We're still inside, and we always will be, with these Wednesday transmissions. We're always working with A Course in Miracles, and we are still in chapter 30 of the text because the course is divided up into 3 parts. First part is the text, chapter 30, the new beginning. We are in section 5 inside of the new beginning called the only purpose. And we've already gone through quite a few of these paragraphs. Today, we're going to focus on paragraph number 5. But I will touch on all of the ones before, because this is an area in the only purpose where Jesus, through A Course in Miracles, is wanting us to really understand we have one purpose. And the only purpose of the world is forgiveness. Why is that? Because when we incarnate, when we enter into the illusion, when we become part of the dream, we must forget what we are. So the only purpose for one who is on the journey to awaken, the only purpose is to forgive yourself for forgetting the truth, because we have chosen to incarnate and descend into lower frequencies. Children come in high frequency. They're about love, joy, and peace, and fun and creativity. And we train them little by little because all of us were trained. We think that's what we're supposed to do as adults, but it's all part of the programming that we are waking up from, that we need to train people into children into giving up their voice and giving up their power and become complacent and become compliant. And little by little, we pull them into behave and do as you're told. And this is what you're supposed to do to be happy and successful and all of those things. So as a parent on a journey, we got to forgive ourselves. We did what we knew to do. I certainly went through a lot of moments of forgiving myself for indoctrinating 3 of my children. Or my 3 children, let me rephrase it. My daughter got the heaviest indoctrination because I started my journey when she was already 12, 13 years old. My youngest birth child, he got less indoctrination because he was 4 when I began the process of awakening. And then we adopted a little boy in the middle who happens to be 2 years older than my youngest son. And so he was adopted at 6. He came with a lot of indoctrination. He came from a rough childhood, very abusive, very, just very, very rough. So there's a lot of programming that is still there, but he came in while I was already on my journey. So he began to receive opportunities to deprogram, because he was hearing things that were contrary to what he grew up with. So he was getting information that was so opposite to what he knew, that he had to go through a lot of processing, a lot of therapy, a lot of emotional upsets to accept that we viewed him as a valuable, powerful, amazing being that deserved to have a wonderful life. And he came from a very abusive background where sometimes he didn't eat for days. He was 6 years old when we adopted him, and we literally had to have all of his teeth taken out because they were all rotted because he didn't get healthy food. He was literally locked in his room with Cokes and chips and garbage for days on end in soiled and same diapers. Anyways, I'm telling you more than you probably want to know. So there was a lot of things that had to happen with sweet little Tony to get him to find that he was somewhat safe, that he wasn't going to be abused like he had been before. A lot of deprogramming. So we've got to forgive ourselves for forgetting. His parents, they both have passed, but they're going to have to deal with that in this lifetime or another lifetime. The fact that we do such terrible things to one another. So we have to forgive ourselves for forgetting. And I'll tell you, those 2 parents that did things to sweet little Tony, they didn't do them because they were bad people. They did it because they too were abused as children. So we hand down the sins of the father, the mother to the children. And humanity for thousands of years has been descending and descending and descending and descending into such a small idea of who we are, where we allow, we think abuse and things like that. Well, they're normal, maybe not in my house, but they're normal in other people's houses. We see movies, we see headlines that somehow make all of that abuse okay. We can forgive ourselves for participating in that. Just as we come together here through Ascension with A Course in Miracles, and we bring our curiosity and we connect, because all minds are one, all minds are joined. We are connecting with hearing high frequency information because we want to ascend. Well, part of Ascension, you cannot ascend without forgiveness, because forgiveness is an acknowledgement, oh, that behavior that I did, the lying, I forgive myself for forgetting. I didn't have to lie. That cheating, I forgive myself for forgetting that as a soul, I don't have to cheat. That being mean, I forgive myself for forgetting that as a soul, there's not a mean bone in my body. I don't even have a body. There's not a mean bit of energy inside of the field of that which is our soul. So our only purpose is to realize that when we begin waking up, the whole world is for forgiveness, period. Until we can forgive everything in ourselves, because we were playing a game. We were playing a game of hide and seek. We were hiding from our true eternal essence, our soul. We didn't know. I didn't know I had a soul. When my kids were born, I counted toes and fingers. Do you have 10 toes? Do you have 10 fingers? The physical body was real. I didn't say, oh, is your aura shiny? Is your, what's the color of your, your energy? What, I didn't do any of that. Heck, I didn't even know to do that. And if I would have done that, people would have thought I was crazy, because nobody did that. So we have to forgive ourselves for forgetting the truth of who we are that allowed us to contribute to the density of planet Earth. Everything that is happening out there that we don't like, that we prefer not to experience anymore, we are complicit in its creation, either by our acceptance of it. Well, it's happening over there in India, but not over here, so it's not my issue. Oh, those people are starving over there, but that's not my issue. Or those people are just lost their home through the hurricane, but it's not my issue. Anything that is happening on this planet, we are contributors of it. Course in Miracles does not want us to feel guilt, because to feel guilty is to go down into low frequency. Course in Miracles wants us to face it and say, okay, have the courage, because to move above the line, you have to have courage, whether it's that line or this line. They all operate. Both of these things are synchronized. We have to have courage to admit what is happening out there is happening because we as a collective souls wanted to experience what it's like to be a human, and characteristics of being a human that doesn't remember that we are divine are things like jealousy and competition and hierarchy and haves and have-nots and rights and wrongs and good and bad. We contributed to all that is happening that we want to wake up from, because we're going, okay, my gosh, I don't want any more of this density. I want to raise my frequency. So how do you move out of what is dense? Is by forgiving yourself for forgetting that you are high frequency. You condensed yourself into low frequency through your forgetfulness, and we contributed to the mess that became of our planet. Now, our planet, just as you and me, is part of consciousness. It has its own idea of how it wants to express itself, like you, like me, like the dogs and the cats and the dolphins. Everything expresses an aspect of consciousness. The planet is an aspect of consciousness, and it is done. It's been done with being abused. I mean, because she sits at our feet and we trample on her all the time. She's done. So she's going through her awakening process, and either she's going to shake everybody off and that's done. That's the end of humanity. Couple volcanoes, couple tsunamis, and boom, it's done. Or we participate in the shift. And that's what humanity has chosen as a collective. We want to participate in the shift, not because we're afraid of global warming, but because we're aware that we have contributed to the low frequency, and now we are shifting and lifting to a higher frequency, because we understand that the planet and us are one, because there's only one mind and we all share that. So in this section, the only purpose, we've got to realize that we are here to forgive ourselves for forgetting, period. And once we begin the process of forgiveness, everything begins to get understood. You begin to remember, you begin to move down the path of realizing, oh, wow, there really is another way. How can I be a part of that? So this course tells us, for us to be able to be part of a new way, we've got to understand the possibility of the freedom that lies in the awareness of how powerful we are. For a while, people waking up and realizing, oh, I'm powerful, will misuse that power to make itself more special. Or I know I did, because the ego always gets spiritual first. So, oh, I'm going to write a New York Times bestseller book. Oh, I'm going to be famous. Well, and that was just not part of my path, because there's more deeper work that I'm supposed to do, not just become a focus on becoming famous. So I had to lose all of that, those ideas, those things, that trajectory that my ego wanted to take me. Yes, teaching beautiful things, but teaching beautiful things in a lower frequency. You can teach beautiful things below the line all you want, but does that help you move above the line? not until you begin to teach without the ego, to live without the ego, to learn how to transcend in the trance of the ego. So it tells us that once we begin to understand the possibility of the freedom that awaits us, everything begins to change. Once we begin to welcome that, oh, I really am powerful. How do I use this power? How do I not misuse the power? That sends us into a relationship with God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, the source of the power. That's when we go, not my will, but your will be done. That's when we understand you're all about love. You're all about unity. You're all about expansion. Well, what does that look like? Well, we don't know what that looks like when we've been operating in contraction and selfishness and greed, and it's all about me. So the mind has to be retrained. New neurological pathways have to be created. As we create the new neurological pathways, what is happening is our brain is taking on new, creating those pathways. In creating those pathways, it activates chemistry. The chemistry of the high frequency is a chemistry of well-being, is a chemistry of healing, is a chemistry of pure joy and peace and bliss. So it's a chemistry that then begins to change our body. So mind, body, spirit work hand in hand. Spirit is our decision. There's got to be another way. That comes from deep within. It's almost like our higher self calling our lower self to wake up. Mind, we got to retrain our thinking. Course in Miracles is a course in mind training. Once you begin to change your mind about things, then the physical body, because we are in a physical body, experiencing that as such, then the physical body has to be reprogrammed, and the body will shift as the mind changes. You stop thinking low frequency, fear-based thoughts that contract you. Then you begin to create those neurological pathways where thinking crazy thoughts like I'm eternal, like there is no such thing as a finite death. There's only an experience, no different than an actor pretends to die. Death of the body is no different than that, because we are like the actors. We are the eternal beings. The neurological pathways get created, and that then the chemistry of the body, because the body is a chemistry factory. It begins to produce the chemicals, the chemistry that allows us to feel ease, peace, the healing, the well-being. So all of those things work together. And in this particular section, the only purpose, we've got to remember that it starts with forgiveness. If there is not a clear understanding of the forgiveness that we're talking about, none of this makes sense. All of it sounds crazy. But once we understand that, then we begin to remember heaven. We begin, well, what is heaven? Well, we've been told that heaven is what is on the other side of death. It's a place with many mansions and streets paved with gold. That all sounds wonderful. But most people don't think that they're ever going to get there, because they've been conditioned to think that they're sinners and not good enough. And, well, they're not going to get there. So you feel hopeless. Well, we've got to understand that heaven is a state of mind, because there is no over there. There's only here now. So we are training our mind to think here now. We begin to change the neurological pathways, activate the chemistry. You begin feel more peace, more ease. Inside of that, then we begin to feel what heaven is all about. And once you feel that ease and peace, you don't want anything other than that. So you begin to become heaven on earth. You then begin to become the change you want to see in the world. Heaven now appears on earth through you and through me, because we have grounded ourselves in that frequency. Heaven is a state of mind that is of a high frequency. To have that high frequency in the world is to create a happy dream, because now you see that the world is nothing more than a playground. And when you are not operating in selfish pursuits, you'll only be able to operate in collective pursuits. that serve the greater good. There is absolutely nothing else that one can do except to serve the collective once we begin to realize that we are all one. So then we went through the other sections that were telling us that as fear begins to drop away, we begin to unite not only with the creative source, our mind is being purified, but we begin to unite with each other. In union with one another, we cannot help but want to do what elevates everybody. So that's the whole point of being a happy dream creator, is you acknowledge that you are a creative source. And when you enter into the quiet space of meditation, contemplation, and you allow inspiration to flow through you, you're bringing from the highest dimension, you become like a portal through which creativity, ideas come to the world, the planet that we're on. And that's what turns it into a new earth. It's a new earth that is still dense because it is made to be felt and to be experienced, but it's a new earth because we're no longer thinking with old ideas of competition and contraction and jealousy and greed and all the things that are activated by the ego. See, as we move into the fifth dimension, we're little by little letting go of the ego running our lives, because when we are children, the ego becomes the aspect of self that goes into protection mode. It plays a role, an important role, to have a human experience. But if you're done with a human experience of suffering, then we are moving towards a human experience of joy. If joy doesn't appeal to you, then what I'm talking about makes no sense and you wouldn't be here. If joy appeals to you, it's because you are done with suffering. You see it and you go, this planet is massive. I mean, I travel. I'm sure every one of you have been on an airplane and you have seen that there is a lot of space that is not habited, that doesn't have inhabitants on it. So how can we not be able to care for all the people on this planet? How can we not feed them? There's lots of land for growing food. There's lots of land for housing beings. So you begin to realize it doesn't make sense that anybody would go without. And then, of course, if you're on this journey of ascension, you're questioning all of the beliefs that are oppressive, and you're beginning to realize, wow, there's more than enough. And then you decide, you feel it inside, that you want to have a joyful life. Well, you cannot just want a joyful life for you and not be expanded towards everybody else, because joy is of the creative source. Hold on. Excuse me. Joy is a characteristic of the creative source, and it expands. That's why joy is up here. Love, joy, and peace are at the very top of the cone, because it's a cone that expands. We have to be in that frequency to expand, because it becomes natural to share. Somebody laughing becomes contagious. Just as much as misery loves company, once you begin to wake up, you don't get attracted to that kind of company. It's not appealing, because you realize they're operating in forgetfulness. Why would you operate in conversations with knowing that, okay, they forgot that they're powerful and they forgot that they created this world because they're complaining? That doesn't seem interested. You want to be with people who have remembered, and those who have remembered go, oh, I'm powerful. I'm the creator of my reality. Well, what do we want to create? And that brings together, and it's already happening around the world. Just about every system of old has those who have decided we don't want that anymore, and they're co-creating the systems that are higher vibing. For example, medicine. So much alternative medicine that is connecting to inspiration, guidance that is coming through people, plants, things from the earth, healthy things that are part of the planet. So there is a mindset, instead of manufacturing things, let's go get what's already there. Let's receive what is already inspired with high vibing healing properties. So amazing things are happening. So let's go to paragraph number 4 that we talked about last week. And that's that the final step in this process of remembering that we are as God created us, a final step is God's, because it is but God who could create a perfect child, a perfect son, daughter, and share his fatherhood with him. So the final step is always going to be the creator, because when we drop our blocks to the creator, drop the veil, drop the illusion, whatever you want to call it, all you're going to find behind the curtain is what God is. You're going to find love, joy, peace. You don't have to become loving, joyful, peaceful. That is God in you expressing itself. So you don't have to do those things. You don't have to try to become peaceful. Your work is to stop blocking that peace. Your work is to not think the thoughts that make you uneasy. Our work, I say your work, our work, as I do the same work, our work is to not block the joy that is already there by thinking the judgmental thought. You know, let's say somebody's having a party and you find out about it and you're like, oh, so excited. It's going to be fun going to the party, but you don't get invited. And you go, oh, that's terrible. I can't believe they didn't invite. You just blocked joy. Joy was there. You heard about the party. So how do you keep the joy? Don't be selfish. Don't be greedy. Let them have the party. Oh, good. They're going to have a party. What a wonderful thing. When you can begin to celebrate for others, you are understanding oneness. You are understanding that all minds are joined and that your thoughts create your reality. Because if you're going to be in judgment that you didn't get invited and sulking and feeling bad, guess what you just did? The joy that you could experience staying at home, reading a book, going for a walk, or creating your own party, you blocked it. You blocked that inspiration for how to stay in that high joy frequency by judging that you didn't get invited. And then all the old thoughts from the past begin to come. My nose is running. My nose doesn't stop running. That is one thing about the winter here. It's constantly running. So I got to constantly keep drinking. So it's amazing having so much water. The ability, I distill my own water. So I've got a water distiller that I keep going pretty much all the time because I need so much water. I am so blessed to have an abundance of water. So if you want to keep joy, if you want joy to be present, God already took that step. That step is done. God created you joyful. But if you're going to judge, oh, I didn't get invited, I'm not lovable, nobody loves me, it's because you're thinking with old thoughts. The old thoughts of the past are active, pulling you down into the density where now misery loves company. So you're mad and angry, you didn't get invited, and you're going to go tell a friend, I can't believe so-and-so did. And then they're going to say, yeah, I can't believe she did that to you. You've been so nice to her. What a bitch, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, you might feel righteous, but you block joy. So Course tells us that the final step is God's because God took that as a first step. It's what you're made of. You're made of love, joy, and peace. You're made to create, period. We can't change that. So you just have to stop blocking what is already there, and what's already there comes forward. And it appears that that's the final step that God takes, but it's only the final because it was the first. It's what it is. It's already there. So as we begin to understand that connecting with the truth of who we are, the love, the joy, and the peace that is naturally there, the creativity, we begin to feel what heaven is all about. And that's the purpose of the real world, to forgive ourselves for forgetting that we are the bringers of heaven. And instead of letting the ego run the show and create hell on earth, we begin to activate the frequency of heaven on earth. So the purpose of experiencing heaven on earth is so we can see how good it feels. And from there, just create more of that. That's what the cone is. The expansion is more of the good stuff, more of the yummy stuff. But to have more of the yummy stuff, we've got to transcend. We got to end the trance that we are not who we were created to be. So the paragraph for this week, paragraph 5 says, the real world still falls short of this. The real world is a world where we remember the truth of who we are. It's in the process. It still falls short of absolutely being perfect heaven on earth, for this is God's own purpose, only his, and yet completely shared and perfectly fulfilled. We cannot experience the complete essence, the goodness of heaven on earth, until we allow God to be part of it. And by allowing God to be part of it is to acknowledge that we are created of the same thing that is God. In essence, we've got to respect, accept, acknowledge that everything is the Creator expressing itself in all of its unique ways. Because our minds have been trained into judging, the blacks versus the whites, the females versus the males, the smart versus the not so smart, the haves versus the have-nots, we have been trained into constantly dividing groups into two parts. When we divide groups into two parts, there's always a good one, there's always a bad one. At the very least, a better one and the not as good one. When we do that, we allow our mind to think that there is some bad stuff out there. Course in Miracles tells us that nothing real can be threatened, because there's only good stuff and it can't be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. God did not create it bad stuff. Bad stuff is the result, whatever bad stuff is the result of our conditioning by not acknowledging the truth of who we are. And so much of that can be traced to religion. And even before religion, it can be traced to the empires, where people thought that they were like, the Roman Empire or whatever, where humans thought that they were the God, that they were better than anybody else. And therefore they had the right to decide everybody's fate. And when you think that you're the one who's in charge of everybody and you're better than everybody else, you have zero respect for life. So to kill off people, to kill off your enemies, to kill off the people who don't bow down to you, it's easy. Well, for thousands of years of that frequency of killing and getting rid of whatever it is that you don't like, it remains on this planet. The frequency remains here. So until we acknowledge that God didn't create any of that bad stuff, that is all human made. This is why we have to forgive ourselves for contributing to all of the suffering, because when we can forgive ourselves for contributing to the suffering, we're acknowledging that there is a better way, that there is a loving way. And then we can begin to create a relationship with God. What is the source of all this goodness? Well, to come to know that source, you will not come to really know that source until you accept that it's in everything. And you will accept that it's in everything once you feel it within. And you feel it within when you stop blocking it. When you start feeling joy and peace and love and giddiness and fun, and you decide, what, that feels best. Let me just do more of that. Then you are knowing yourself as a creator, because you'll create more of that. It's not going to just show up for you without you doing the work of desiring it. You must want it to just be love, joy, and peace. And once you see, so I stayed in my joy when I found out I didn't get invited, by wanting them to have a good time. So I created the opportunity to stay in a peaceful place, joyful place, because I stopped doing what I used to do, which was judging the thing that I didn't like. And when all of it is equally acceptable, they didn't invite me. Well, I'm not supposed to be there. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It just means I'm not supposed to be there. Why do we want to be where we are not wanted? Only the ego wants that, to feel important. But when you understand the laws of God, you're not where you're not supposed to be at. And it's okay. And with that acceptance, then we begin to recognize that, as it says in here, God only has one purpose, and that is to extend the kingdom. That is to extend the goodness, and it needs each and every one of us to extend it. If there was no planets, no birds, no bees, no people, no extraterrestrials, what would there be? Just a peaceful knowingness that all is well, but there wouldn't be expressions of it. There wouldn't be examples of all is well. You and I are what makes all is well possible. You and I are what allows God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, to express itself. But we can't express the love, the joy, the peace while we suppress it with our egoic bullshit, with our egoic BS belief systems. Oh, I didn't get invited to the party. You're not supposed to be there. If you were supposed to be there, you would have been invited. But can you accept the goodness in you not being there? Only if you don't let the ego tell you that you need to judge, that you need to turn this into a terrible story. So if there's no terrible story, there's only beingness. There's only expression of what isness. And that's what we have to get to. Cultivate a relationship with a creative source, whatever you want to call it, and acknowledge that it expresses through you and through me. And when you connect with that truth, you then begin to feel amazing power. But it's always going to be used for the greater good, because you will know everything is it too. Then God is in everything you see. It is not possible not to see it, because you feel it, you acknowledge it, and you are definitely trained your mind enough to know you're not going to block it with judgments. So then it goes on to say in sentence number 2, the real world is a state in which the mind has learned how easily do idols go when they are still perceived but wanted not. The real world is the state in which the mind has learned how easily it is to let go of looking outside of yourselves for love, looking outside of yourselves for authority. The real world is what remains when the mind has been trained from looking outside to coming inside. And once we come within, oh my gosh, you cannot help but expand the real world. How willingly the mind can let them go, those external sources of authority or idols. Excuse me. How willingly the mind can let them go when it has understood that idols are nothing and nowhere and are purposeless. Wow. Idols, anything that we give power to, really, it doesn't serve a purpose in God's creation, because God's creation is about expansion. Idols that we worship always become they go to the top and we're at the bottom. So there's a hierarchy. There's a divisiveness. Oh, that one is famous. I'm not. Oh, that one is rich. I'm not. Oh, that one is pretty. I'm not. Oh, that one has power to keep me safe. I don't. So the ego projects power outside of ourselves just as much as it projects fear outside of ourselves, because we don't recognize the power that is within. So all of this journey is about letting go of all the blocks to that which allows us to feel the power of the creative source within. That's why we don't take that step. We remove the block, and what is already there, it's there. You don't put it there. You just recognize it is there. And the more you enjoy the feeling of that essence of the creative source within, the more that you become clear. You're not going to keep looking outside. There's no need, because it's always going to lead to suffering. It may be a temporary high now, but then you're going to fall and have the disappointment, because all idols are going to fail us. It's an addiction to get the high, and then you're going to drop down. Skip that. Go straight to the neutral. Go straight to that which is never going to disappoint, because it cannot be altered. So how willingly the mind will let go of those things when you make the decision, I don't want to suffer anymore. I forgive myself for forgetting that there is no power outside of me. I forgive myself for forgetting that I am one with the source of all that is. Why chase for anything outside of myself? I forgive myself for being delusional. I forgive myself for being so immature that I spend my life chasing, looking for love in all the wrong places outside of me. Now I remember. Yay, I'm so excited that I remember. Now let me cultivate a relationship with this power in me. That's like the second part of the journey. The first part of the journey is seeing what the ego has done. The second part of the journey is a relationship with our soul. It's a relationship with the understanding that it feels good, always feels good, which is better than feeling bad, always feels good to see everything through the eyes of love. When I can observe everything, oh, I didn't get invited to the party. Well, obviously, if they don't want me there, it's okay. They want somebody else there. Maybe they don't have enough space for an extra person. It doesn't matter. I don't even have to rationalize it. I just need to accept it as a loving, as a act of love towards myself. And then it goes on to say the last sentence, for only then can guilt and sin be seen without a purpose and as meaningless. So once we let go, once we have the willingness to train our mind to let go of expecting the outside to make us happy, then we can let go of guilt. We can let go of sin. We can let go of feeling bad that I didn't get invited, or feeling, oh, guilty. Did I do something to offend her? And then calling them the next day, hey, I heard you had a party, but you didn't invite me. Did I do something wrong? Oh, poor me. Oh, please don't leave me out in the future. You own your magnificence because you accept theirs as well. So the Course in Miracles is such a beautiful, beautiful, to me, simple, very, very simple teachings that are methodically training our mind, systematically helping us see the way the mind works, so that we can little by little by little stop operating from the ego and start owning that we are the creators of our reality. As we own that we are the creators of our reality, we create a different reality. You're not going to create a reality that is going to be opposite to what you believe you deserve. And if you believe you deserve love, joy, and peace, and I believe I deserve to have a life that is absolutely fun and easy, well, for that to be the reality, you must acknowledge that you're the creator of it. And to be the creator of it, you've got to acknowledge and forgive yourself for forgetting you're the creator, and you let everybody else create for you. You let mother, father, teacher, preacher create for you. And instead of blaming them for creating for you, acknowledge, oh, I got trained into giving my power away. Well, that makes sense that I give my power away. I got taught that father knows best. No wonder I let father, do whatever. I got trained that teacher knows better. No wonder I just did whatever the teacher said, even though it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. I was trained that spouse knows best. Husband, wife knows best. No wonder I give my power away. I got trained that government knows best. No wonder I give my power away. That's why humanity has to wake up right now and take our power back. But it doesn't, you're not going to be able to take the power outside until you find the power within, because that's what this work is all about. You are the creator of your own reality. You are the one with all the power. Either you give it away or you don't. And we're waking up by training our mind to realize that we gave it away. Forgive yourself for that. It's okay. We all did the same thing. Been there, done that, let it go. Now, what do you want? Now, what are we going to focus that energy on? Happy dreams are created, co-created by those who now want to give permission for new ideas to come in, because the new earth cannot be created with the same mind that created the old earth. What are we going to do? Start new rules, laws, regulations? Well, if we start giving power away to those who are in charge, then guess what? It won't take long before we have another 3D world. We don't want that. So to not give power to anybody else, we've got to own it and come into collaboration, co-creation, cooperation with humbleness and as equals. Because God is in everything we see. God is expressing through everyone. We must acknowledge the value of each and every being. We must be willing to sit and listen. What's typical of the 3D world? Somebody says something and attacks or what happened. I don't turn on the television. I don't want to hear people attacking each other. I was visiting, this was 3, 4, 5 years ago. Went to a friend's house and she happened to have a show called The View on. Oh my gosh. Wow. It was so startling. It was like 5 women yelling and screaming at each other. I was like, why does anybody listen to this? They were giving their view, their opinion, and it was attacking the guest or whoever or what. I don't remember the details. All I remember is going, oh my gosh, that used to be my world. That used to be me. When somebody said something I disagree with, I was going, I was going to let them know how wrong they were, because I didn't value that they were God in front of me, because I didn't know I was God. I thought God was on a cloud over there somewhere. So there's a lot of preparation of the mind to move to the place of total and complete alignment with God. And it all starts with a willingness to see things differently. And once we're willing to see things differently, we have to realize, oh, we forgot how powerful we are. So we just forgive ourselves. And that's the purpose of the world right now for anyone waking up, is to use it just to forgive yourself for all the times that the ego takes you into judgment and righteousness and separation, because that keeps you in a state of thinking that victims and bullies are okay. Well, God is not a victim or a bully, because God is not separate. It hasn't separated itself. It has expressed itself in infinite ways. And we are remembering that we're not separate, but rather expressions of the one self. All right. So that's all I've got. When it's done, it's done. I feel it. So if anybody wants to had an aha, share a comment, wonderful. If not, we'll see you next week, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The episodes for this, and I am actually a little behind in getting a few up, are on my YouTube, Laina Orlando. And if you enjoy this, share it with others. Let's get more people. I mean, why wouldn't we want to share the truth that A Course in Miracles is giving us? I mean, it's just amazing. It sets us free. All right. If anybody wants to share anything, by all means, unmute yourselves. If not, we'll come back together next week. And I am just so grateful for each and every one of you that is here. All right, everybody. Thanks a bunch. See you next week. Love you all. Bye-bye.